Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 2 of the inaugural Malaysia Tech Month 2020. My name is Julie, and I'm delighted to be your host for today. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on this virtual platform. And to those who have been with us from yesterday, welcome back. The Malaysia Tech Month 2020 is initiated by Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, Mdec, in this month of November as a month-long curation of the nation's most robust digital and virtual immersions enabled by visionary leaders and courageous investors, showcasing Malaysia's world-class technology and digital innovations to both local and global investors alike. We had remarkable speakers yesterday from as far as the US, Finland and Estonia. And if you missed yesterday's sessions, I strongly urge you to watch the replay of those sessions on our virtual platform, as they are thought-provoking, to say the least. Now, for those of you who have any questions at all, please feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A comment box. We would love to hear your comments, your feedbacks, your queries throughout the entire sessions today. Meeting and chat rooms are also available on the virtual platform for your networking convenience. With that, let us now kick off day 2 of the Malaysia Tech Month 2020. It is my pleasure to welcome and to introduce to you the Chief Marketing Officer of Mdec, Mr. Raymond Siva, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Good morning, Chao-san. Vanakkam to everyone out there. It's great to see you again on the second day of the Malaysia Tech Month. The conference yesterday was power-packed. And if you missed it, like Julie said earlier on, please go on and look at the content that we put up there for you. Quick recap, we had Alexander Stubb, the ex-Prime Minister of Finland. We had Harry Moseley, who's the global CIO of Zoom. We had Tavi Kotka, who was the CIO of the Estonian government. He really pushed the e-government initiative. And we ended off really with Dr. Rais Hussain, the chairman of Mdec, who spoke to Bloomberg. A very honest and engaging session. And in between, we had Patrick Grove and Joel from FAVE in a face-off, Malaysia or Singapore. And it was a great session. And I'm really happy to say that we're starting today, the 11th of November. Today is 11/11/2020, with another power-pack lineup. In just a short while, you'll have Randi Zuckerberg, who is the former head of marketing in Facebook and the founder and chief executive officer of Zuckerberg Media. She'll be presenting a keynote, and I'm sure it's going to be an engaging session. And she'll be joined later by Serena Shukri, who's the chief executive officer of Mdec, in a conversation, a very interesting conversation, I must say, that you can expect. So do stay on for that. Again, the whole day today, I hope that you've got your devices with you and you'll be able to tune in. We've got the future of ASEAN's digital innovation with the likes of Jasmine Ng, the Chief Revenue Officer of IP88. We've got Maran Viramandi from Dr. On Call, Joe Koo from iStore. We've got Lenise Ng from Droppy, and we've got Wai Hong Fong from StoreHub. Moving on the day at about 11 o'clock, we'll have a very interesting topic for you. Building Malaysia's billion ringgit revenue company. What does it take? How far is Malaysia away from building our ringgit unicorn, right? And right following from there, we'll have Gopi Ganisalingam, our Vice President from the Global Growth Acceleration, who will talk to you about landing and expanding in ASEAN and what Mdec is trying to do to facilitate investments and companies to base themselves here in Malaysia, beautiful Malaysia, and expand into ASEAN. Right after that, we've got a networking break. We'll move into what you need to do to work in Malaysia. If you're out here in Singapore, Indonesia, all over the world, how can Malaysia welcome you? So we talk about the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Pass, or the MTEP, and how you can gain success in Malaysia. We have the unrivaled Karamjit Singh, the founder and chief executive of DNA, coming in later. It was his birthday yesterday, and I hope he had a great day yesterday, and he's all charged up for today. And he'll be talking about many things. He'll be talking to Rene Bernard, who's a co-founder of Luxtag, Francesco Argento, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Easy Spark Malaysia as well. And also to Sunil Kaushik, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bool Technologies. I hope I said that right. Right, and right towards the end, we move on towards where is the fintech roadmap leading in ASEAN? It's a hot topic. And for that, we've got Aiza Azrin, the former Director, Strategic Development of Boost Axiata. We'll be talking to Kok Long from IP88, Rafiz Rashidi, and Chris Leong. Right at towards the end, we've got Kusu Chuang again here with a panel discussion on market access in ASEAN. And I think moving from that, we end the day with another, I think, very interesting topic that you must tune in, the regulatory framework in Malaysia and its evolution along with the digital economy. And there we have the a moderator from the World Bank, the economist, Mahama Samir, will be talking to Glenn Taskey, who's the Director of Financial Stability and Supervision Payments in the CCAN Center, and Chin Wei Man, who's the Executive Director, Digital Strategy and Innovations, Securities Commission Malaysia. So as you can see, we've got a full array of topics here for you. And without further ado, I welcome you to enjoy the day. Please stay onto your devices, spread the news to your friends. These 2 days have been curated especially for you. And Mdec is really proud to be bringing the Malaysia Tech Month to you. Understand as well that this is a whole month of events, yeah? And this 2 days is only the tip of the iceberg. On that note, I wish you guys a great day ahead, and I pass it back to you, Julie.
Thank you, Raymond, for setting the tone for today. And of course, the overview of today's power-packed lineup. I believe Raymond did a great job teasing our first speaker for today. She's none other than a woman who has led the marketing journey for one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet today as former head of marketing for Facebook. She's also the founder and chief executive officer of Zuckerberg Media. Please give a warm welcome to Randi Zuckerberg. Over to you, Randi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Randi Zuckerberg. I'm thrilled to be here, even from across the world. Thank you so much for having me, especially after a few very stressful weeks in the United States with an election. It's really a joy to be able to take a virtual trip to Southeast Asia to talk about entrepreneurship, one of my favorite topics. Especially, we are existing in such a disrupted world right now. The rules of what to do, of how to engage, of the new normal are all completely different. And so I'm thrilled again to be here with all of you for Malaysia Tech Month. I want to say a really huge thank you to Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation for inviting me. And I wish that I could be there in person. I have traveled to the region before and had an incredible time, but I'm also very thankful for technology that allows us in different time zones, different days actually, to be together and to share this moment. Now, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, because the honest answer is that you're probably familiar with someone else with the last name Zuckerberg. And maybe you're sitting here today thinking, oh, I'm a little disappointed. I wish that that other Zuckerberg was speaking. Why did we get stuck with his sister? So I want to tell you a little bit about myself, my unlikely journey into entrepreneurship, and hopefully by the time we're done together, you'll forget that that other guy even exists at all. So a few things about me. I graduated from Harvard University, which I know that's a little bit of an ego bragging thing to start a speech with, but that other Zuckerberg did not graduate from Harvard University. So that's why, of course, I have to lead with that. After I graduated, I went to New York City, where I got a job at a top marketing agency there called Ogilvy and Mather. And something interesting happened my first week on the job. All of the other entry-level hires that started with me got staffed on these glamorous traditional campaigns like you would see in the show Mad Men, with celebrities and big campaigns. Not me. I basically got sent down to the basement of the company to work on this new little team they were starting called digital marketing. I had no idea what that was. All I knew was that I was pissed off because I wanted to be with the celebrities like everyone else. I didn't want to work in a basement on some brand new team I had never heard of. But it turned out to be one of the luckiest things that happened to me in my career, because 2 years later, digital marketing was one of the fastest growing teams inside the agency, bringing in tons of revenue. Everyone needed expertise in digital marketing, including my brother, who was out in California starting his new company, the Facebook.com. He needed some expertise in digital marketing. And so he started to call me, email me saying, hey, Randi, I could use some advice, which, let me translate that for you. What it really means is, I need someone who will work for free, and you're my sister, so please help. And I decided that I would go out to California for 1 week, give him some advice, and then I would come right back to my life in New York City. So off I went. And I expected, I had actually never been to California before. So I thought it was going to be so glamorous, celebrities everywhere, amazing. I stumbled upon one of the least glamorous places I'd ever been in my life. These guys were coding around the clock. I was like, where am I? What have I done? But there was something so amazing about the passion that they had for what they were building. I'd actually never been inside a startup before in my life. And it was so exciting that these young guys controlled every decision. Every success, every failure was theirs. They didn't have to go up 20 chains of command to make a decision. They got to do it on their own. One of the big challenges, though, that Facebook had was that there were so many big tech companies in Silicon Valley, and we were a tiny company. I know it's really hard to imagine Facebook as a tiny company, but when I joined, there were only about 12 of us. And so it was hard to compete with big companies like Google with their free food and their amazing campus. And, why would someone come work for a little startup? So we started doing these things called hackathons, where we would invite people from other companies and people could come to Facebook for an all-night creative session. I know that doesn't sound that fun. Who wants to stay up all night? But these were really fun, high energy, food trucks, DJs. The whole purpose of the hackathon was that at the start of the night, you come up with an idea, and if you were still standing by the next morning, you got up in front of everyone and presented your idea. Now, it's important to note, I was doing Facebook Live as a side hustle. I was running consumer marketing full time, but in my side hustle, I was doing all of the interviews, I was producing, I was editing, I was booking guests, I was doing all of that. So every aspect of Facebook Live. I think one of the proudest moments for me with Facebook Live was when I got a phone call that said that the president of the United States at the time wanted to use Facebook Live to go live to the entire United States. It was such a proud moment for me, especially because only 4 months before that was that hackathon in that broom closet. And now 4 months later, the president of the United States wanted to use a project that I had created to communicate with the entire country. I know many of us are dealing with a challenging year. So I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes by Winston Churchill that says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Now, what did Winston Churchill mean by that, and why am I bringing that up right now? And it's because even in moments where we hurt the most, and it's the most challenging, those moments are often a gift in disguise because it forces us to innovate, to get uncomfortable. It's almost like we are all in one of those Facebook hackathons where we have to come up with a new idea to survive and put it out there, and you might as well come up with your biggest, boldest, most creative thing. I actually think that out of this pandemic, we are going to see world-changing businesses and ideas come out of this in ways that maybe we wouldn't have come up with if we weren't forced to go through such a challenging time. I want to share with you some of my favorite pivots that I've seen during the pandemic. This is Michael Mina. He is a Michelin star winning chef. When you win Michelin stars as a chef, it means you obsess over every little detail, from the china that it's served in to the scent of the air. Now, that does not lend itself well to a pandemic when people cannot go inside restaurants, but he so effortlessly put his ego aside and transitioned to takeout and family meals and launched all kinds of things to protect his employees and their jobs. A lot of restaurants pivoted to becoming grocery stores when they saw that there were food shortages in supermarkets. A lot of restaurants immediately became local grocery stores in their neighborhood, which I thought was a beautiful change. Some restaurants got a sense of humor. This is one restaurant that decided that they were going to put everyone inside these kind of bumper tubes to make sure that people maintained social distance. So it kind of became a funny marketing stunt while also keeping people safe. In schools around the world, really interesting, innovative ideas have been happening all over the world to get children back to school safely while also making sure that young students do maintain social distancing and safety. So now truly is the time for action, for courage. It's the time to get uncomfortable and to dig deep and to think about how to be your most innovative self right now. Because if you're going to put Malaysia on the map as a powerhouse of the region, it starts now with thinking about how we make the most of this challenging time and lay the groundwork for innovation. A few things that I would be thinking about right now as areas for opportunity. First, we need to retrain a remote workforce. For me, I don't think the workforce is ever going to go back exactly to the way it was. Some people will want to go back to offices, but some people won't. And I think there will be a hybrid model of in-person. So we need to make sure that we are matching digital talent to what the industry is demanding. Revitalizing the economy and focusing on the digitalization of business is huge. E-commerce has exploded this year. In fact, it's exploded so much that the projections state that we are now 5 years ahead in e-commerce of where we would have been if there was not a pandemic. That's how much business moved to online. So people didn't stop buying things. They just started buying it in new digital ways. And I've been really excited by some of the innovations that I've seen in e-commerce. I've started to see a lot of businesses using augmented reality to expand their business. In this photo of me, my hair is a little messed up, sorry, but I am doing an augmented reality try-on of jewelry. And it was so fun. It really showed me how new technology and digital tools could really connect businesses with customers in new and exciting ways. So I actually think that this challenging time is an opportunity to reach new customers who you never would have reached before and reach them in new and exciting ways that get them to share your business with everyone. It's also an amazing time to be thinking about data and the opportunity of this digital world. There is more data flowing now than ever before, and 2020 has been an interesting year in that it's the first time that tech companies and governments have really come together to recognize the power of data in a meaningful way. With this pandemic, there have been whole new industries around contact tracing, health tracking, all kinds of things where huge amounts of data are flowing through systems, but they need to flow through in a way that's efficient, that controls people's privacy and respects that. So we're seeing just incredible uses for artificial intelligence, blockchain. Another huge opportunity is in removing barriers. This is an incredible area, I think, of opportunity and investment, because one of the things we all saw in 2020 is that the supply chain broke down all over the world. It made us realize that way too many of our businesses are dependent on one country or one factory or one remote location. And suddenly, when borders close, when travel becomes harder, when shipping ports are closing, all of that breaks down. So as leaders in business, we've had to learn this year that we have to diversify our supply chain. We need to double down on local businesses and local partnerships in those times. Reconnecting people and thinking about how people get around is also a huge opportunity, especially for cities and regions of the world. People are going to be commuting in new ways. They're wary of public transportation, especially packed public transportation. People might be thinking in a new way about transportation like bicycles and scooters, micro-mobility. I know I bought my first bicycle for the first time, and I've just been tooling around my neighborhood on that. I never thought I would be a bicycle person, but here I am. So I think if we can really reimagine how people get around while still allowing that access and opportunity for everyone, that is a way for cities and regions to be truly innovative going into this new normal. And finally, redesigning education. This certainly is not the last area of opportunity. There's areas of opportunity in every industry, but as a busy, tired mom who found myself homeschooling 3 children in addition to my regular job and everything else I was doing, it made me realize how broken our education system is around the world. We rely on schools for too many things. I realized we rely on schools for education, for socialization, for babysitting. And when schools stop existing, all of those other things stop too. In fact, you'll see on my shirt in this picture, it says, "I'm not talking to myself, I'm having a parent-teacher conference." I think all of us found ourselves in these crazy new positions this year. In fact, if you had asked me to predict what the hardest thing about being in a global pandemic would be, I would not have guessed teaching math to my children. But, it's really amazing, all of the extra jobs that we've all had to take on to be in this time. It's been a real delight and pleasure to be here with you today from across the world via technology. But I truly think that Malaysia has a very exciting moment to become a powerhouse in this region, to use this time of challenge and crisis to be innovative and to be really a beacon, a shining beacon in the region. So thank you for inviting me to be part of Tech Month. It's an honor to be speaking to so many incredible entrepreneurs and business people, and I cannot wait to see the incredible ideas that you're going to come up with. Thank you so much.
Well, Randi, I'm sure I speak on behalf of many of us who just watch you speak for easily almost an hour, but your energy and your vibe was magnetic. It was energizing, and it is so easy to see why people are so drawn to you in your positive demeanor, that we want more. We would love to hear more from you, and as such, please do remain where you are, because we'd like to welcome into the broadcast Puan Surina Shukri, CEO of Mdec, who will join us for an in-conversation right now with you, Randi. Over to you.
Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Surina Shukri. I'm the CEO of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. I am so excited to be with you all this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, as part of our Malaysia Tech Month celebration. We've got a special treat for you. Together with us this morning, or this evening, or rather, is Randi Zuckerberg, who's somebody that's well known in the industry as like her bio is amazing, as a pioneer in digital marketing, as a Facebook executive, one of the first Facebook executives. We'll get her to talk about that. And an author, a mom, and most recently I discovered Broadway performer. So amazing, amazing things. And so she joins us this morning or this evening from San Francisco. And so I'm super excited to have her with us. Hello, Randi.
Hi, it's wonderful to be here. And it is funny, in this Zoom world, you have to account for so many time zones. So you're right, it's morning, it's evening, who even knows what time it is. But I have to say that after a very stressful week in the United States, it is really a pleasure and a joy to be having a conversation with you and taking a virtual trip to somewhere else in the world.
Yes, I would have loved for you to visit here in person. Have you been to Southeast Asia? If not, as soon as the MCO is over.
I've been to Kuala Lumpur before, and I've traveled a little. Oh gosh, it's so beautiful, and the food is amazing. Now I'm dreaming about returning. So hopefully, when all of this craziness in the world is over, we can meet in person and then be in the same time zone.
Fantastic. In the meantime, I will send you some fantastic work that some of our VR companies have done, and to showcase some of the wonderful scenery and food here so that you can enjoy that in the interim.
Excellent.
So Randi, we're going to have a very, it's just a conversation, a chat, because Malaysia Tech Month, our primary audience this whole week, this whole campaign is really targeting our entrepreneurs, our tech entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts. And so what we want to cover are a little bit of, some of your background, your history, some tips, what it's like to build companies, and some of your insights, some discoveries from this year and whatnot. But I want to kick it off by just having you share a little bit of your story. What's so notable about you is that, in the early days, like you jumped in digital marketing before there was even digital marketing, basically. And now that's a huge part of the way we live today. And so tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, and then what do you think it is that you do differently than others?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. And it's really an honor to be here and to get to share my story this way. I had a very unlikely journey into entrepreneurship. And I think that's why I love to share my story so much, because I think so many people sit there and they think, oh, it's scary to start a company, or I don't have a tech background, or this. And neither did I. I had none of those things. So I actually wanted to be an actress. That's what I wanted to be. But my parents, who were both doctors, said, please, can you, go to the best college you can get into, and, maybe have some other skills to fall back on. And after college, I actually went to work at a marketing agency in New York. And that was where I first stumbled upon this new emerging field of digital marketing. And it ended up being very lucky that I stumbled upon that field, because then my brother started the Facebook.com a few years later and needed someone to do digital marketing. And so, of course, he called his sister. I thought that I would go out to Silicon Valley for 1 week to help him and then go back to my life. I ended up staying for 10 years out in Silicon Valley, and I fell in love with the entrepreneurial way. I didn't even know what it meant to be an entrepreneur. I had heard stories of the Google guys in their garage and Bill Gates in his garage, but I had never actually been in an entrepreneurial setting before, and it was so exciting to be just surrounded by smart people who owned their successes and their failures and were trying new innovative ways of doing things. So even after I left Facebook, I knew that I had caught the entrepreneurial bug, and I started my own company, Zuckerberg Media, with a real goal of focusing on women and girls, telling their stories, putting them at the center of media. So I've been producing television shows, theater, radio, books, you name it, everything that really puts smart, savvy women and girls into the story. So it's been a very exciting journey. I think I still have a lot of chapters left in the journey of my career, but I really wish that everyone who's watching this can have the opportunity to do something entrepreneurial.
Take us back to those early days when you were in Silicon Valley. And of course, I'm just posing a little bit because, there's the preconceived notion. It's Silicon Valley, it's guys, it's the boys club on one side. So I'm sure you had your, oh my God, is it really like this moments? And then what were some of the lessons that you took from there in that kind of environment that you're really trying to bring into your media work over here, focusing on, storytelling and empowering women and girls?
I'm so glad you asked that. And I think it's wonderful that here we are, two women having such a great chat about business. Yes, high five across the screen. You're right. I had many years of being the only woman in the room in Silicon Valley. I loved what I was doing, but it was very lonely. Silicon Valley, it's the only industry, I think, where you can go to a conference and there's no line for the women's bathroom because there's 10 women at a conference in tech. And so for me, that really became a passion and a mission of mine to understand why there were no women in the room and to try to get more women there. In the 15 years that I've been working in the tech industry, there has been some progress, not enough. Even when I look at the numbers today, of all of the billions of dollars of venture capital money that goes into businesses in the United States, it's still less than 2% of funding that goes to women-led startups. And within that 2%, that is white women. Women of color account for much, much less of that funding. So there's still a lot of work and a lot of changing mindset that we have to do. I have seen some great progress. Most funds now have female venture partners and investing partners. Many startups, you can't really have a startup without women on the founding team now, but still so much work to be done. And I have to say that Facebook was really one of the first companies in the Bay Area to bring in strong female executives and to prioritize that.
Yeah, it was bringing the visibility, which I think is something that we need. You touched on venture funding just now, and I happen to have read you actually started your own VC fund too. So tell us about that, and then tell us about as you think about, because there's founders watching this today. What are some of the differences or tips that you might have as it relates to raising funds for just founder and then female founders?
It's great. I could talk about this all day. So my fund is called Broadway Beta Ventures, and we focus on two different things. The first is actual live entertainment vehicles. Right now, there's unfortunately not that much live entertainment going on in the world with the pandemic, but we are producing some things in Australia and in countries where live entertainment is still going strong. The other thing we do with the fund is we invest in tech companies that are helping with some aspect of live entertainment and performance. And so we've invested in things like blockchain ticketing. We've invested in augmented reality companies, really exciting things really on the forefront of live entertainment. I have to say that when an entrepreneur comes to pitch me, there are really 2 or 3 things max that I'm looking for. I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that I care only about their idea, but that's not true. I care about them as an entrepreneur even more than I care about their idea, because all ideas change. Every company changes and pivots and is different, 6 months later. So what I really care about is this an entrepreneur that I want to be in business with for a decade? Is this someone who can take feedback, who will be great to work with? So I think when an entrepreneur goes to pitch an investor, make sure that you're not just selling your idea, but you're also selling yourself. I think the other thing that I really look for is someone who has an equal balance of passion. You have to have passion for what you're doing, otherwise you won't make it through the difficult times, but that passion has to be balanced with real data in your industry. There are so many entrepreneurs who come and they're blinded by passion and they don't look at the data of what the industry wants. And then there are other entrepreneurs that come in all about the data, and I can't even tell if they even really want it. Yeah. So it has to kind of be the perfect mix of those things. And so that's really what I look for when I meet with a founding team.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I was an angel investor myself when I was in New York, and certainly do speak to a lot of founders here. And then and one of the things I tell people, you have to have a strong story and product for sure, but your why has to be very compelling as well.
Absolutely. I have to say that my 2 best angel investments I ever made were both female founders, and they were both companies that male investors just didn't want to have anything to do with because they didn't understand the market. So one was a more modern breast pump. Now, no male investors wanted to touch that. They didn't understand, but I'm a mom. I've had 3 kids. I understand that there are millions and millions of women who need a better product for their babies. And that was by far one of my most successful angel outcomes. And then the other was washable rugs, because again, as a mom, I understood that, the benefit, you have dirty children, pets, you want to just take a rug and put it in the washing machine. Again, no male investors would meet with this entrepreneur. My investment went up 230x on that company. So wow. I think, for me, that is clear data on why we should invest in women and invest in people with real passion and understanding of the market.
You're here. Fantastic. So I want to go back to your time at Facebook.
Great.
And in particular, so of course, in the early days, it's the ideation, it's the marketing, it's everything else. But one of the pivotal contributions of Facebook in general is just highlighting the fact that we live in a content society now. Everybody is a content creator, and so for you, take us back to that time when you thought about Facebook Live, and so. This idea, what was that? What sparked it? And like the high and low from that.
Terrific. Well, I've been reminiscing these past few weeks a lot about my time at Facebook, because I had a lot of jobs at Facebook. There were only about 12 of us at the company when I started. And anyone who's worked in a startup know that when there's only 12 people, you have many jobs and you wear many hats. And I've been thinking a lot. One of my jobs was running our election strategy. When I first started at Facebook, no politicians in the world would even take a phone call from me, because they thought, oh, Facebook doesn't matter. It's unimportant for elections. And so it's very funny and ironic to now be sitting here, less than 15 years later, with social media playing such a pivotal role in elections around the world. But I really started thinking about what you said, the fact that every person is a media company now. And when the iPhone came out, that really enabled the dream to happen much more quickly, that all of us are sitting here with such computing power in the palm of our hands. So I just started live streaming whenever I could. I would interview engineers around the office. I would interview other employees, and I would just call it Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg. And I didn't really think much of the project. In fact, it was my side hustle within Facebook. I was full-time running consumer marketing, and then I had this little side hustle, which was Facebook Live. But fast forward to today, where about 10 years later, there's now 2 billion people around the world who use Facebook Live on a regular basis. And it's been such an impactful part of major events around the world. So that's been really exciting. I think now there's over 100 people at Facebook who full-time work on Facebook Live. And it was like my side hustle in addition to my job. So that made me really proud, and it made me realize that every single one of us has an entrepreneur inside them and has a great idea like that inside of all of us.
How would you define entrepreneurship now? You started before, at the top of our conversation, you said you had no idea what that was. And so now, how do you say, what is entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I didn't think I had it inside of me, because I think we have these preconceived notions of what an entrepreneur looks like or who an entrepreneur is. But now when I think about it, I think I was an entrepreneur all along. I just didn't realize it. I've always liked to be uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is I'm not scared to try new things. I'm not scared to be bad in front of other people or to fail. And I think that's really the sign of an entrepreneur, is if you run headfirst into uncomfortable situations, knowing that you have it within yourself to learn and figure it out. I think that's what makes someone successful. And especially this year, we're in a crazy year. Everyone is uncomfortable. Everyone is relearning the world. We're all kind of entrepreneurs right now in that regard.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I like to think of entrepreneurship as the art of creating something out of nothing.
Yes.
It's the change. It's creating something out of nothing. So speaking of which, building companies, entrepreneurship, part of it is about building companies. And so you've had experience with corporates, that's where you started. And then, startup that is now like not a small company anymore.
A big corporate.
And then you ventured out on your own. So what do you think it is? What do you think are some of the foundational steps that's most critical in building enduring companies?
That's such a great question. It's something I think about, but my answer is always changing and evolving. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking about right now, but my answer might be different 6 months from now. First of all, I think that founding team, that executive team, it's so critical. Entrepreneurs, we really like to surround ourselves with people who are like us and who are similar to us because we feel comfortable with people who are similar to us. But that's actually the worst kind of people that you can surround yourself with on a founding team of a startup. You need to make sure that you have diverse voices who challenge you and challenge your way of thinking or come from a different background or a different thought process. And so I think that the best entrepreneurial teams are those that have diverse enough voices that can kind of, instead of thinking exactly the same, can challenge one another from the beginning. I think also the company culture is really important from day one. I think I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that say, well, we're only 6 people. We don't need a company culture, but you do, because that defines how you're hiring. It defines how people feel, the longevity of how people stay with a company, what you stand for. And so those are the things, when I see even a small company with a diverse founding team and a strong company culture, I feel like that's a team that is set up for long-term success. I don't know you've been an investor and a building teams too. What do you think?
I tend to agree. It's all about the team. To begin with, and you need diversity on the team. And it's quite hard actually in the beginning when you're starting, because people tend to gravitate to the same kind of people. Even now, as I'm continuing to build my team, I'm very conscious to like not just pick the people that I feel comfortable and familiar with, because you really need that. But I want to touch on what you said just now on culture, which is really, really important, but it can be a little bit amorphous sometimes. So for you, when you first joined Facebook, there was somewhat of a company culture already. I mean, like your brother was there, and so you kind of joined, and then you started your own, and so your own company. And so what was that like? And how do you think about what are tips for founders as they think about building their company culture? Is it really like I'll start with a Post-it note and then say culture equals to, and they start like having, some theme, or what is that like? So building culture.
Definitely. And it's something that's been so important for me. I think about company culture, not only in my own company, but in companies that I invest in and companies that I join the board of. I really kind of put everything through a thought process of, is this in line with my values and my mission? And is this company culture something I want to be a part of? I think in some regards, it does start from the CEO and the executive team to kind of come up with a purpose. You need a purpose-driven company of why you need to exist in a crowded business world. But I also think that some of the most magical parts of the company culture come when you empower other people in the organization to be their truest selves and speak up. That was one of the reasons I loved Facebook's company culture so much, is it was really a culture about making everyone an entrepreneur, no matter what position you were in the company, from the top levels to an intern for the summer. You had the opportunity to create ideas and speak up and be heard and be an entrepreneur. And I thought that was really just such a beautiful and incredible culture. In my own company, I've found, because we're in New York City and we're focused on live entertainment, most of my colleagues have some kind of a performing background in a former life. And so we incorporate that into our company culture a lot by seeing shows together, by taking improv or theater classes over Zoom together during this remote time. We actually sometimes even put on plays over Zoom as a company. So I think in some ways it's having a purpose. In other ways, it's listening to what your employees want and what really motivates them.
That's awesome. I love that you and your company, you make your company do improv. That's so cool. I actually did that in New York because I think it's super cool. And it's really, I mean, what you learn about innovation and team building when you do improv, it's super cool in that regard. So today, nothing's predictable anymore. It's disruption. You hear, we all talk about 4R and this and that and everything, but ultimately, the world that we live in is a world that is always changing. It's disruptive, being disrupted, and so experimentation, like you said, is key. But as you start to continue to do the things that we need to do, how do you build companies that are not afraid of failure? Or how do you cultivate this fear of, well, actually, how do you overcome the fear of failure?
That's such a good question. I wish I had a readier answer for it, because I think when you look at children, they don't care about failing, but then something happens on the road to adulthood where we get so terrified of failing. And I don't know if it happens in schools, in applying for jobs, or what it is, but we develop this culture of fear as we head into our adult lives, where we're so scared to try new things and look bad in front of other people. And honestly, for me, it was not until I went to Silicon Valley and I saw people just not being afraid to try new things and throw ideas at the wall, and who cares if they fail? Failure, in fact, was a badge of success because it meant you took a big risk. It was not until I put myself in that environment that I learned to overcome it. And to be honest, as a woman, I think it's even more ingrained in us to be perfect and to not take risks. And so every single day I have to think to myself, what would my male colleagues do? No, they would take that risk. They would go for that big challenge or idea. And I have to continually get out of my comfort zone to do that. So I think it's ongoing work for all of us, especially women in business.
So when you talk about women always juggling so many things, trying to balance, you're a mom of 3. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. And so I can relate to how crazy life can be sometimes. I'm a mom of 3 as well. And so how do you keep it together? So what are some tips? I know you wrote a book about just picking 3 things. And so how do you pick your 3 things, and what's some advice that you have for executives, founders, as we're trying to all stay sane, basically?
Oh my gosh. Well, again, figuring it out as I go. And I have to say, maybe as a fellow mom of 3, maybe you have some tips for me as well, because some days I feel like I'm holding it together, and some days I feel like I'm barely holding anything together. But I really developed a life mantra and philosophy almost a decade ago, before I even had any children. I started thinking about how everyone tells us to be well balanced in life, but let's face it, none of us ever accomplished something we were proud of when we were well balanced. It's only in those moments of life that you allow yourself to go all in on something that you do anything you're proud of, whether that means being all in on your family, on your career, on a personal project. And so I started to shift my mindset away from being well balanced into being well lopsided. And I thought a lot about, what does it mean to have a well lopsided life? Well, it means that you have to give yourself permission to go deep in some areas and not feel guilty about the things you're not doing right now. So I coined this mantra called Pick 3. And it goes like this: work, sleep, family, friends, fitness, pick 3. Now, you can constantly be changing which 3 you're picking, but in any given phase of your life, you can really only be good at 3 of those things. And you have to just give yourself permission to let the other 2 go and be okay with it. So especially in a crazy year like 2020, if you're not being as healthy as you wish, it's okay. Let it go. A survival year. Maybe, for me, I have found myself at home homeschooling 3 children. That's not a job that I expected to have in 2020, but it's something I've had to put a lot of time into, which means that I've had to, take prioritization off of other things in order to make that happen successfully. So I think it's okay to acknowledge that we are in a phase of our lives where we could be well lopsided and give ourselves permission to do that. So that's been my phase, but I don't know. How do you do it? You seem, you're so glamorous and put together. So,
But no one's seeing what kind of pants I'm wearing. So that's it. I completely agree with you. Like you can't, I used to think of optimization and balance and all that. Now it's really all about, yeah, let's just commit. If it doesn't work, then you just pivot, and the kids will be fine is basically my new mantra. And because I always go, they say, can I have some ramen noodles? Only if you have fruit and vegetables thereafter. So that's one thing. So in we've got a little bit more time left. I do want to talk about 2020. This year has just been oh my God. And so other than homeschooling, of course, that you touched on, what's something that you've learned this year about navigating uncertainty?
Well, our entire life is very uncertain. We live in New York City, but in the middle of March, when New York City started to get very scary and they were building hospital tents in Central Park and hospital boats were coming into the harbor, we actually decided to go out to California to stay with my family and to leave New York City. I love New York City with all my heart, but the thought of being in an apartment with 3 children, sheltering in place and homeschool was not so attractive when my parents have a beautiful home in California with a backyard. So we came out to California thinking we would be here for just a few weeks. I left food in my refrigerator in New York City, and now 9 months later, we're still here in California. So this whole year has really been a year about resiliency, managing unexpected things, finding joy in things rather than looking at the dark side. And being able to see, wow, material objects are not as important as I thought they were. There's so much that I don't miss that I thought I would miss about my old life, that I've really been surprised at how resilient and how joyful everyone is around me. So it's certainly been a challenging year, but it's really, the silver lining is that I think it's brought our family much closer together.
I couldn't agree with you more. I realize how much less stuff we need, and so this year has been really interesting. What are you looking out for as far as 2021 trends is concerned?
Yeah, there's a lot of trends I'm looking out for. I've been focusing and thinking about blockchain for many years now. And I think finally, this is the year that we're going to see some really real world use cases and applications with so much health data flowing through governments and tech companies and a need for secure ways of transmitting that data. So I think this is really the year for AI, for blockchain. But I also think that just in general, this is the time for innovation and entrepreneurship. There's never been a better time in the last 20 years or so to just try something new. If it doesn't work, you can just blame it on the pandemic, and who cares? No failure there. But you never know when you're going to try something that just might change your industry or change your life. So for me, I think there is always opportunity in crisis time. And I hope that more people take the risk and go for it.
Fantastic. Well, AI blockchain. So I'm going to hook you up next year. 2021, we will certainly, I hope to have more conversations with you on that. And so I want to close with some reflection / fun questions. And so first one, and then so don't think so deep on it.
I'll get out of my head.
So first one, what book has impacted your life the most?
Oh my gosh. There's a book, I believe it's called Turn the Ship Around. And it was about a captain, maybe I'm getting the title slightly wrong, but it was about a captain of the worst performing ship in the US Navy who was able through leadership and culture to make it the highest performing ship in the US Navy. And I have reflected on that book so many times in my own leadership.
That's fantastic. I know that book. At JP Morgan, we had it as a pre-read for one of our leadership offsites. So
Fabulous.
Okay, second question. What do you think is the most important innovation of your lifetime so far?
I'm going to say the iPhone. I think it's changed for better and for worse how we interact with one another, how we consume news, how we create media and view it. I have a love-hate relationship with my device, but I couldn't do half the things that I do without it.
And then the last one, I saved the hardest for the last. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life?
Oh, that's a really good one. I'm thinking it's gotta be some kind of a sleep aid for the baby because you know, I have to say that, like, you always say money doesn't buy happiness, but sometimes it can buy you sleep and then that buys you happiness. And so I think for anyone who's ever had a new baby and even a little thing like a swaddle blanket or something that can buy you your sleep is valuable beyond words.
Agreed. Okay, and close it off with your advice for entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs.
I guess, well, gosh, this is a challenging year, as we can all see and admit. Women are dropping out of the workforce in record numbers all around the world. And I understand why. When you have children at home, when schools are closed, traditionally it's the women that step back from their careers and handle those extra things at home. So I guess my words of wisdom are for women who are trying to balance everything during this crazy year, and just urging you to find the help that you need to try to stay in the workforce, if at all possible, because we need the bright, intelligent women of today to be the leaders of tomorrow. And if all of us are stepping back and managing things at home, then we're really going to feel it 5-10 years from now in industries all over. So maybe that means stepping back from a corporate job to try something more entrepreneurial where you have flexibility on your hours. Maybe it means focusing a little more on a side hustle, but this is the time, women, to get entrepreneurial and to figure out how to make life work in this challenging time.
Fantastic. So Randi, this was such a treat, such a delight to spend my morning, your evening together. And thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, your energy with us. And I look forward personally to hosting you one day when we can all travel and fly again and come visit Southeast Asia. We've got lots.
Absolutely. And you'll have to share with me where you got your fabulous haircut. We'll need to go there together. So thank you so much. It's gorgeous. But truly a pleasure to speak with you today. And I appreciate your passion for promoting women in business. It really shines through. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randi. Thank you, Serena. Wow, it's just so empowering to see two women at the top of their game making a mark in the tech industry. And thank you once again, Randi, for joining us all the way from the US of A, despite the time difference. You know, it's so empowering to hear you speak, so honest and open. You're sharing with us earlier. And with so many things that we can truly learn from. Your passion, your positivity and energy, I must say, is magnetic and infectious. And I believe one of the advice that we should all remind ourselves, especially in this current pandemic time, is that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. And there is opportunity in every challenge. I believe that Randi has repeated that message many, many times. So for those of you who are watching, you know, hang in there. Great ideas can come out from this hard time. So just hang in there, of course, and do stay with us as well, because our next session is coming up very, very soon. Do join us. For those of you tuning in on Facebook, just hang in there. And for those of you who are watching via our virtual platform, you'll have to click join session, and we'll see you very soon.